ULEZ is quite literally the talk of the town at the moment, and in this video I'm going to talk about what it is, whether it affects you, whether it affects the car you drive, and what kind of cars you can drive into the London area, and what the whole point of this is. Hope you enjoyed the video. So essentially, if you don't already know, ULEZ or ULEZ or Ultra Low Emission Zone is essentially that. It is the ultra low emission zone to keep London's air clean, which on one hand I get, but it's also causing a lot of issues. Frankly, if I did live in London, I would find it incredibly frustrating.
Please, no! No!
The long and short of it is this: if your vehicle does not meet the ULEZ emission standards for London and it's a big area, you need to pay £12.50 a day to drive your car. It doesn't matter what your income is, this is just based on what your vehicle is. Lorries, vans and specialist vehicles don't need to pay this, it's more of an LEZ charge. Now, like most people, I naturally assumed that Sadiq Khan is fucking us all over here and causing an absolute chaos, and frankly, I still believe that's the case. But I checked my car against this check, and I have a modified Toyota GT86 just for clarity, and this came in at no charge at all, bearing in mind it's 2012. And just like any normal person would do, I put my mum's plates in there, I put my dad's plates in there, I put my friend's plates in there just to see what came up, and nothing said it was needing to be charged when it went into the London zone. So then I thought, why are people complaining? As shocked as I was to find out that my car doesn't need to pay any ULEZ tax to get into London or the main area, I was also confused about what actually does need to pay. Now, essentially, anything over 40 years old is considered historic, and that does not need to pay to get into London, which you'd think would make the most issues when it came to air pollution. So anything essentially between 2010 and where in 1980 would have to pay this ridiculously expensive charge per day. This is where the issue comes into play, is that it is affecting people who can't afford it because they have a cheap car or they just have to get into London every day for whatever reason, and it's just an unnecessary charge. What's frustrating about this is that if you live right on the edge of the map, as you can see here, you still have to pay even if you went to the shops or you went to a school nearby. If you actually add this up, it's £100 a week or £5,000 a year. So well done to Sadiq Khan. However, here are a list of cars which are exempt and not exempt. Good news, so if you own a Nissan Leaf, Honda Jazz, Suzuki Sport Swift, Ford Fiesta, EcoBoost, Skoda Octavia, Toyota Prius, Volkswagen Golf, Audi A3 Sportsback and so on, you can drive into the area of London without having to pay, including my Toyota GT86, which is highly modified. I think the main issue here is that, as we can all see, if you own a £100,000 Range Rover, you do not have to pay any tax on this to drive it into London, which is kind of ridiculous. The people who are going to suffer here are the people that drive a very small little hatchback that costs about £2,000 and they bought it for cheap, and now they suddenly have to pay £5,000 a year to get into London, or if they just drive around the area at all. Into the juicy stuff. So basically, I've worked out that if you drive something like really old Toyota Aygo, you can't get into London. If you drive an old Range Rover like Mr. Jeremy Clarkson does for his farming show, you can't get into London unless you pay, of course. If you drive a 5-litre Ford Mustang, you cannot get into the London area. If you drive something from the 1990s like a Ford Sierra Cosworth or a very chavvy Vauxhall Nova, you cannot get into London. It's worth noting at this point, I am all for clean air, and that's why we have the congestion charge. But this extremely wide zone to pay £12.50 emission charge is absolute nonsense. It's also worth noting at this point that petrol ULEZ cars that are exempt are Euro 4 standards, and diesel ULEZ cars that are exempt are Euro 6 standards. I'll leave a little screenshot here for you to have a look at, and there's a lot more detail online. BBC News did an article saying back in March that almost 700,000 cars will not be compliant, which is kind of insane when you think about it. And the people, like I said, that I feel most sorry for are in the smaller boroughs of London that literally won't even enter the city centre. They will drive from work to their home, or they will drive from home to work, or they will drive from home to the shop in their Toyota Aygo, or maybe they're a car enthusiast and they have an RX-7 who happens to just live in London. People that are really looking to sell their vehicles, and there's been loads of pictures and articles of people selling cars that are excellent, but due to the ULEZ zone, they're now having to be either scrapped or just gone from London area. They're not car lovers. If you absolutely love cars like I do, here's a couple of cars that you'll actually are ULEZ exempt. Take, for example, the 2004 Bentley Continental GT, the Audi TT Quattro, the 2003 BMW M3, or the lovely 2004 Mazda RX-8.
Great cars for petrol heads, but this highlights the madness that is the ULEZ.
Not to mention, it's kind of wild that there's people out there that are currently being fined even though their car is currently ULEZ exempt. And the fact you can drive a 20-year-old Bentley pretty much says it all without the charge. A little planning has gone into this, I feel. Finally, on prices, a Ford Focus Mark 1 from 2002 to 2004. Bear in mind, that is a ULEZ exempt car, so you can drive that in London. Cars that were £500 to £1,000 have now gone up in price to around £2,000 because cars like this can get into London. It's crazy that we have this situation where now some of these cars are being pretty much bumped up in price due to ULEZ and across the country. Even my car can go in, to me, is crazy. I hope you've enjoyed this video on the ULEZ. While the UK is great for being a car enthusiast and for being a motorist, it is currently a bit of a weird place to be. So welcome to the UK.
Don't forget to subscribe if you like car content.